Hello, everyone. This is Morris Jackson with Religion, Economics, and Politics. We have another great show lined up for you today. Stick around, and we'll be right back after this short message.
True strength is forged through unwavering consistency and relentless perseverance. In every step, every workout, every single day. Our supplements are meticulously crafted to empower your journey, providing the vital support your body craves to recover swiftly, train with unmatched intensity, and conquer new horizons.
How do we protect our wealth? Because I think that's the other thing that some of us really don't think about, because there's been a lot of people who've made a lot of money and they've done well, and then something happened, they were sued, or they ran into some legal issues, or, all sorts of things can happen when you get money. I mean, because with money sometimes comes other problems and you can become a target. So what should people do to protect their wealth? What are some strategies that we need to follow?
So there are a couple things, like you can set up trust, and in certain trusts, your money is protected. So that's one way. You could set up ways to give money as well, right? And then there is the more obvious way, like, okay, so if I have all this, what if something happens to me? Like, how am I going to protect this? If I'm sued, like getting an umbrella policy is really important. A lot of people don't realize that's something that they can do. And most, when you purchase your car insurance, but sometimes they'll just ask you, do you want to add on an umbrella policy as well? And the umbrella policy is basically there to cover you from potential legal litigations, and it's relatively cheap. So that's one way as well. The other way that I speak about it a lot now, just because I had a car accident, and so I built my retirement, right? I had a great job. When I had the car accident, I was right in the middle of deciding to leave my job at the Federal Reserve or to go in my business full time. Like literally that week, I had an interview that week for this job I call my dream job, because when I set my goals, that was the job I wanted to have for when I was leaving corporate America. And when I interviewed for the job, initially I said to my husband, I'm not going to interview for it because I'm going full on in my business. And then I was like, yeah, but this was my dream job I wanted to have. Let me just see what it going through the process.
Yeah.
And it was at a major investment bank, and I would be heading up at so then I was like, okay, I'm going to interview for it. When I interviewed for the job, they absolutely loved me. They're fast tracking me to second round of interviews the following week. And I had that car accident the weekend.
Wow.
But what was interesting about it was, on my vision board, the date that I have for leaving corporate America was September 1, 2021. And I had the car accident August 28th, 2021, 3 days before the J. So
Wow.
I often say that I think it was just redirection. But I tell you the story, but the story is going to come around. So I had the accident, right? Here's what would have happened had I given my resignation to my job. I would not have long-term disability insurance, except I had purchased a policy on my own. So I had a policy that covered about 40% of my income. The policy that my company offered me would no longer be there. So I would have to figure out how to live on that 40% of my insurance policy that I was getting. Fortunately, I had never given notice, so I had that full disability benefits from my job. But for a lot of people, your job probably offer you long-term disability. I think I said that earlier, but it generally only covers 60% of your salary. And if you speak to the average person, 60% of your salary cannot cover all of your expenses. And so what inevitably is going to happen is that because that 60% cannot cover your expenses, you're going to have to pull from where? Your retirement, your children's college fund, or you got to sell your house. How do you protect yourself? And so using myself as an example, my job was paying me 60%. I had this 40% long-term disability. And this is a policy that any one of us could go out and purchase to cover the gap between our current income and what the job does not cover.
And this is a pretty inexpensive policy, correct?
It's not super expensive. No, it's not very expensive. And I think a lot of people are not aware of it. They're also not aware of how much their employer covers, because for some people it's even less than 60%. And out of that 60%, you have to pay your medical benefits as well, and you have to pay any other expenses that comes through your job plus taxes. So it really comes down to minimal. I actually wrote a book about my whole experience and what people should do to sort of navigate this process, but to know it before they become disabled. Um, so you can easily accumulate wealth, but if you don't have these safeguards in place, and I'll
Mhm.
quickly talk about my experience so that people could understand what I mean by that. So I had the car accident, and now I thought, okay, my job offers short-term disability, so I'm going to get the short-term disability benefits. But I had been out of work for some time, and I only had 2 weeks of short-term disability left. And so once
Wow.
that 2 weeks was gone and a little vacation time, I needed to come up with money on my own. So fortunately, I had about a year of emergency fund because I was thinking of leaving my job. Because normally,
Mm.
even though I have monies here and there, my emergency fund is usually maybe more 6 to 9 months as opposed to 1 year. But I had over a year of emergency fund if I were to add everything up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I had to pull on that emergency fund. But in the meantime, while that was happening, my daughter became ill, and it wasn't covered by insurance. All of her therapy benefits, whatever she was supposed to get in some months, it was thousands of dollars.
Wow.
I had to hire a private physical therapist because the place I was going to was not helping. I had a tenant. I have rental income as well. And I knew that if I gave my tenant notice, she was going to stay in my house. And in New York, they have very tenant friendly laws. And I did have to give her notice, and I did, because I was just like, I can't anymore. She still lives in my house 2 years later and still haven't paid me $1 in rent. So all of that was
Wow.
happening at the same time while I had really had any income coming in, because it takes 3 months. When I purchased my long-term disability policy, it would take 3 months for that to kick in. But the one your job offers, and everyone who is listening now, if you have a job, call your job to find out about your policy and find out how much coverage you have, and also find out when it kicks in. Most likely it's 6 months or a year after you become disabled. So imagine having to
Yes.
wait 6 months or 1 year after you're disabled to get any income from your job. And you could apply for Social Security disability income. I'm still waiting. I still have not gotten Social Security disability
Are
income
you
yet.
kidding me? How long has that
So
been?
I applied later, but even though I applied later, first they'll decline you at least twice, and then you literally have to keep filing appeals. So the whole process takes forever, and you have to figure out how to live during that time. So fortunately, I lived below my means, and I also had that supplemental long-term disability policy. So it was really able to help me. And even though I was doing my business, because I was on disability, it was really difficult for me to do certain things. So eventually I had to give up doing my business at all. So the little income that I was getting from it, I was literally just taking that money and putting back into the business for the most part anyway. So that is a good example. Like my case is a good example of how I accumulated all of these things. But if I didn't have certain things in place, I could have lost it all. And what I had in place was that I had the emergency fund, and I also had so I had the emergency fund, and I had that supplemental disability policy that helped me as well. And then I had other resources
Mhm.
that I could pull on. Yeah,
You know,
that
I
was
just
very
think
long.
people, out here right now that are listening to your story and what happened to you, life can blindside you at any given time. I mean, just like in your situation, things were perfect. Things were just moving along the right way. Hey, I'm headed towards my dream job, and boom, life can
Okay.
change in an instant. I just think about my neighbor, down the street. Her husband just recently passed away, but I will say this: they had their house in order,
In order. Good.
and I, we miss him. I know she misses him dearly, but just imagine how much more difficult things would be if he did not have his financial house in order. Those two as a couple were just, I mean, they were mentors in a sense to us. So my wife and I looked up to them as hey, you know what? Those are those are marriage goals right there. That's definitely the couple that
Wow.
we look towards. So I think about my own situation, just last year, and I saved up about 6 months of emergency fund money and never anticipated needing it. Hey, I work in the oil and gas industry, everything's stable. Um, money's always going to come in. So they came to me one day just out of the blue. And I remember it because the Astros had won the World Series. And so our office building was right there on the parade route. And that day, something just felt really off to me. I could just feel it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but something just feels off today. And after that parade was over and went back to the office, and I got a call because normally we do our one-on-ones weekly with our
Mhm.
our VPs, and so I got a call and went in the office. And so when I was getting ready to close the door, she goes, "Oh well, no, hold on, HR is going to sit in on this meeting," and I knew because I'm the director of security, so I know when HR comes in and sits in on your meeting, this is a dismissal. And so I said,
Wow.
there's several pieces of paper on the desk, and your life is flashing right before your eyes. Things are changing
Yeah.
rapidly, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And so, they start showing me, hey, look, the company's going to go a different direction. We're going to eliminate the position. Your performance was great. We, appreciate everything you've ever done for the company, the whole nine. And then here's your severance pay, and we're going to keep you on the payroll. And this was November. Well, you can stay on the payroll until December 31st. But there was no choice. I mean, you're out. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can decide to accept the severance, or basically, you can decline, and basically you'll get nothing. And so um, I said, you know what? I said, can I at least have 24 hours to think about it? Because I don't like to make decisions on the fly, but that's exactly what they wanted me to do. I needed time just to at least absorb what just happened. I just completed some major projects, bringing this
Wow.
company from out of the 19th century into the 21st century, as far as our processes were concerned. I mean, and we were, setting the industry standard at this point. And I just knew that, hey, I've done a great job. I've got great reviews. Hey, everything's perfect. And, well liked by my peers, and everything's great. And then until that fateful day. And so I walked out of the office, and the first person I called was my wife, and I said, hey, they just eliminated my position. And I tell you what, and that's tough. And if anyone's ever had to call their spouse and tell them that, hey, I just essentially been fired. And so I sat in my car probably for about 30, 45 minutes, just kind of thinking about it, and
Wow.
what, what was my next step. And then of course I started thinking about finances. Okay, I've got 6 months saved. Okay, they're offering me the severance. Okay, and then they also guaranteed my bonus, because that was the other thing I was thinking about. They guaranteed my bonus because that's coming up in February. I have
Right. Yeah.
leave. So of course, so we went over the paperwork when I got home, and there were some things we wanted to make sure we had guaranteed in writing, and that was the only objection I had. And so we had a discussion with HR and with legal, and they actually put those things in writing that we were asking for. So based on what I saved, the severance and my bonus, I was actually able to make it through that year, because it took a whole year. And
Wow. Wow.
and I wanted to get to work. I wanted to get back to work quickly, but it never happens that way. And there
Right.
were opportunities out there that came up, and I'm like, oh, I could do this job with my eyes closed. But every single time, I mean, I'd go through several interviews and it looked great. And I get to the point to where they're going to make me the offer and poof. I mean, the whole thing just
Wow.
dissipates. And they said, well, sorry, Mr. Jackson, hey, we want to hire you, but they've rescinded the position or they've canceled the position or it's on hold or whatever the case was. This happened 4 times. And I said, okay, God, you know
Wow.
what? I said, I'm just gonna wait on you. And when the opportunity is right, you're gonna send it. You're gonna send it my way. I got a call that November of all months, and the company said, "Hey, Mr. Jackson, we've been trying to reach you, and we have a position. We believe you'd be perfect for it. The job paid 30% more than what the other positions were going to offer me, and benefits, perks, just I mean the whole nine. And I'm actually working in that position today." And loving it. Everything that I
Wow.
had to fight for in another position, it's just like everyone's throwing it at me now. It's crazy. It feels like I'm living in a twilight zone. It's like this can't be true. But I go back and I just want to echo the importance that you stated, that having that emergency fund, having that plan, because even with the severance package and the bonus, if I hadn't had that emergency fund, I would not have been able to bridge that gap. And now reading your book and looking at the different insurances, and I think people really don't realize how essential insurance is, whether it's death benefit to cover college tuition for your children should you pass away, to cover home expenses, to cover maybe unpaid debt that's out there. Um, and I'll say this, and I'm going to be quiet, but the other thing that I read about the Rockefellers and a lot of how they survived the Great Depression, it's insurance. It's just mind-boggling, and I'm thinking, why have we not focused in on the importance of insurance and how you can actually build wealth? They actually have a system in place. They have a family office,
Yes.
and they meet just like a corporation.
Yeah.
They have meetings. They keep meeting notes. When a child is born in that family, they're automatically covered. They put an insurance policy on the person. The trust is the beneficiary of the insurance policy.
Yep.
That wealth is protected
Yep.
and shielded from taxes. And I'm like, wait a minute. And it's not rocket science, but it's just a lack of knowledge. And the
Correct.
Bible says, "My people perish for a lack of
Lack of
knowledge."
knowledge.
This is the information that I want to make sure that gets out there. And I'm so blessed, again, like just to have you here on this podcast and share the information that you share with us today. I definitely would love to have you back on this podcast. You don't have to answer now, but
I would love to come back. This is great.
okay, great. All right, y'all heard it right here. So yeah, I'd love to have you back. I just can't wait. With that being said, and what do you feel like is your purpose or calling in life?
Yeah. So I really believe philanthropy is my ultimate purpose, and that's been my driving goal for many years now, and it still is. And I feel like this business that I'm doing, which is what I know I'm meant to do, because I believe that there is a direct route to philanthropy. Philanthropy, I could never say that word, from what I'm
Me either. Don't
doing.
worry about it.
I want to change. I work with mainly women, but I think that my message and what I teach could applies to men and women. I just targeted women because
Mhm.
women have such an aversion for learning personal finance.
Mhm.
So I want to teach and change women's lives, and I want to do it in such a way that they build wealth. but also so that I build wealth, because I know that the knowledge that I'm offering is well worth what I'm bringing them in their investing in. And then from that wealth that I build, I have certain organizations that I've identified, and I'm sure there are more that will come up. Most of the organizations that I do work with are like catered towards children, because I
Mhm.
believe that children are they're malleable, right? And I feel like if
Yes.
we give them the tools that they need, uh, and we give
Hmm.
100,000 of them these tools, and just grow them in a way that they come out and they do amazing things, then we could see a completely different world. And so I
I
want
love
to
it.
use a huge part of what I am building in terms of my wealth and give back to organizations that's going to nurture children and grow them and build them up into who they truly can be. I didn't
I
have
love it.
a organization to do that for me. Um, and I had to literally do it on my own, but I didn't do it on my own because there were people like the guy who mentored me, who told me to buy the house, the people who helped me, even though that's another story with them, but they still gave me room to stay in. And so for all those people who were able to help me, I feel like, yes, it would have been easier if I had a charity that was just like, hey, we're going to put this money behind her. So I feel like now that I have come up and I've been able to achieve certain things, if I can just start putting dollars, putting my time, and really nurturing these children, then what can they
Mhm.
be when they grow up?
I mean, we truly are a collective of our experiences and those who pour into us. We truly are. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I have aspirations, and this could be a long story, but I'm not even going to share that part. But I'll just, in short, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This being religion, economics, and politics, the podcast. But one of the aspirations that go beyond this is to build a school, and a part of that curriculum from a very young age is to teach them financial stewardship, investing, budgeting, business, entrepreneurship from a very, very young age. My wife and I have conversations, and we say the difference between maybe say an upper middle class household and maybe a lower income household. A lot of times it's just the conversations that are being had.
That's it. That's
you
it.
know, if
So I was gonna say my daughter and I were supposed to be doing a presentation at at an organization,
mhm.
and she fights against she more than my older daughter fights against everything we teach them about financial literacy. But I always say that they don't realize what they know. Once they start talking and
Yes.
people look at them like, "Oh, how do you know that?" That's when they
Hmm.
realize how much they know, because the conversation in our house, my husband is an enrolled agent, and he does tax preparation, tax strategy, all of that stuff.
Oh,
So imagine him doing that and me doing personal finance. My children are like, we
oh
want
my
nothing to do
goodness.
with any of
Oh my God. Well, I know who to call because I'm actually looking for a very,
it.
very, very good tax consultant. So I tell you what, I mean, I'm done doing the taxes on my own. I had a big tax bill last year, and I said, okay, I'm done. Because my wife kept telling me, hey, won't you find someone to do the tax? I'm like, no, I got it. I can do it. But you know what? But for our car, if we got a nice car, hey, we're going to go to the dealership for that particular model vehicle, and we're going to make sure that that person is qualified to work on our vehicle. So
Mhm,
if we
mhm,
could do that for a vehicle, why would we
yeah.
not do it for our taxes? Something that important, especially when we're messing around with the IRS.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes people don't realize how much they're losing out on when they don't have that.
yeah, so we
So
we got to have that conversation. I'm definitely going to be reaching out on that. So
absolutely, you certainly can. But yeah, and I'm
okay,
sorry I cut you off, but it was kind of
no,
funny
you're
when you were
fine.
talking about the conversations, because it's true. Like the conversation we have with our children, just the way that we see they move throughout the world now, just speaking purely from personal finance perspective,
Hmm.
And then we look at other children or the conversations that other parents are having with their children versus ones that we don't even need to have with ours because it's just so natural for them because that's all they've known. I think I mentioned on the beginning, maybe not, that I had a children's financial education club too. So I
No, you did
taught,
not mention that.
oh, yes,
Oh,
I
that's
taught
awesome.
children about personal finance. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. See, I know there was a reason why we ended up connecting. And let me tell you, folks, this interview we tried to make happen over the last, was it maybe month, two
Months.
months? Yeah. And it's just for whatever reason we couldn't connect. We got the time zone was
Times
off.
wrong.
She's on the East Coast, I'm Central, and I fly every week. So I'm East Coast part of the week, and then the second half of the week I'm back on Central Time. So it was just crazy. But we were speaking off camera, and I said, it's going to happen all in God's timing, and this was the time it was supposed to happen. And I truly believe that people who listen to this podcast are going to be blessed. And I believe that there's going to be
Right.
some knowledge revealed to them that maybe they didn't know before, and it's going to spark, some more interest. So, and with that being said, tell everyone how they can maybe find you on social media. How can they reach out to you?
Sure. So I am actually on LinkedIn. That's one of my main platforms. Is Tanya Taylor, CPA, MBA. You actually have to put both in because there's a lot of Tanya Taylors out there. But I'm also, my website is growyourwealth10x.com. And I'm also on Instagram at growyourwealth10x.com as well. And I would encourage you to purchase my book. Actually, the other book here, which is
Yes.
Limitations to Limitless, I would encourage everyone to just grab a copy of this book, read it, because I've had people say to me, but I'm a teacher. Why should I prepare for disability? Or I'm just sitting at my desk all the time. Disability comes in many different forms. You don't have to get hit by a car like I did. It could be so many other ways. And I think that there's a lot of reviews online about both books. So you guys could check it out, see if it would be impactful for you. But I know when I decided to pour my heart and soul into writing these books, is because I really wanted to not give fluff, but give people real tools to be able to go out and start implementing things. And so I actually give you work to do. I give you homework to do in these books. And I also
He
have a coaching
does.
program. So if someone is listening and they're thinking, okay, well, I want more, want more hands-on, I just decided to relaunch my coaching program because I was sort of on hiatus for a while. And there, I really work with my clients, and they've had very closely, and they've had tremendous results in short periods of time.
Guys, I can tell you, Broke to Wealth, that is an amazing book. She does give you homework, but it's really, I think, advantageous to you um, in getting your financial house in order. If you follow the processes, actually, work through the guidelines in there in the book. I'm telling you, it's amazing. It really caused me to take inventory, like I said, of my finances, and I thought I was doing pretty good. Of course, we can all do better, but I started actually kind of getting a little bit embarrassed as I was going through it. I'm like, man, I'm wasting a lot of money. And that's what you'll find, that you're wasting money. And when I say wasting money, I'm talking about money that's not making money for you. If your money is not generating income for you, then you probably need to think about what you're spending and how you're spending it. Trust me, you won't regret it. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us here on Religion, Economics, and Politics. We cover a lot of controversial topics. This is election season, so I do want to take the opportunity to tell everyone to get out, exercise your right to vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I would say, educate yourself, know the issues, and I would also say this. I got out, I voted early. And if you already know what you're going to vote for, don't wait until election day. Get out and vote now. Get it done. And most importantly, no matter who wins in office or who ends up, getting in office is not going to solve your financial issues or get you from point A to point B. There may be a couple of policies out there that may be beneficial to you, but the principles that we're talking about today are going to be the thing that you need to make sure that you're focused in on to grow your financial wealth. The and I will applaud my Asian brothers and sisters and my Jewish brothers and sisters, because no matter who's in office, they prosper because they put sound principles in place and they work it and they work
And the Indians
together.
and the Indians as well,
And the
because
Indians as well. That's right.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's
So
right. You're
we've
in New
got to get
York,
it
so you
together.
know
Yeah.
you got a front row seat.
Yes,
Yes.
we really have to get it together. And a lot of them, insurance.
Mm-hmm. There
Insurance
you
is the
go.
main, they use other tools too, but insurance is a big tool. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I feel like we got another show coming. We're gonna have to take a deeper dive into some things. So, but anyway, my goodness, I could go on, but you guys probably are getting tired of hearing me talk. But we'll break it up. We'll come back. We'll do another podcast. How about that?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to come back.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining Religion, Economics, and Politics. Be blessed. Stay encouraged.